Hey, good afternoon, folks. And of course, it is Friday and time for another update from us. So, as usual, how do I sound? Besides nasally and probably tired.
Guinness says sound.
Sound.
Everything good.
Okay, sound? Sound? No. Okay, hey, so let's get started. I think there's 17 items here. We are currently testing underwater prep, I believe. Hopefully we'll have a build ready for this weekend. We'll let you know with the update. So, and this is going to be a real short one because I am deep in actually one of the items, number 17 on this list. So, definitely short Q&A. So let's get started. Top 10-ish or 17-ish. Number 1, work in progress. The VFX for the Dark Fool. So Mike worked on the VFX for the Dark Fool. The placeholder VFX for the Dark Fool's starting abilities have been replaced with VFX that are more appropriate for the class. So I guess in this moment, class appropriation is a good thing. Okay, number 2, work in progress, tech, support classes. Anthony and Scott did some science to address issues with the Minstrel's Harper Lyre and Dark Fool's Bone Reed Pipe, so they attached to the right place while animating. And let me tell you, that's a really good thing because you don't know where that Harper Lyre could have gone. Number 3, work in progress, tech, a knockback. Matt is currently doing support work around the capability to predict and approximate spatial queries on the client. So what does that really mean? Let's have some cool knockback in the game. Number 4, tech, bug, but not crazy. Same with another item, what is it, about 11? No, number 10. So we'll talk about that in a moment. Number 4, tech, bug fix. Christina fixed a crash, with the progression app where Mongo likes cookies. Chocolates, right? Mongo likes, was it cookies or chocolates? Chocolates. Was complaining about transactions being too big. The issue was happening on Hatchery, and because of it, we had to turn off progression there. Well, yep, happens. Number 5, tech, tools, transform Gizmo. Gizmo is now being updated for the next reincarnation of a bad Hollywood movie. No, because Disney just screws up everything.
What's our reference density today?
A lot. It's been a week. Rob updated the input sheep. Because I'm playing classic WoW sheep. The input shape of the transform gizmo from a sphere to make it easier for designers to use the gizmo when manipulating objects in the world editor. Yeah, I know. It doesn't sound like, again, the most exciting stuff, but this is stuff that we've needed to do for Ben and other people who could come in and add more to the world. Number 6, tech tools, object selection. Another Rob item who continues to make it easier for design and art to build out the world by, in this case, improving and picking and highlighting of objects. Again, I know it's not sexy, but as we've begun to build out more using the editor, these things had to be done. Number 7, work in progress, tech nav mesh. So we spent the week getting the 3D nav mesh working. So this is a big thing, and we've talked about it. It's something that I know for a lot of you go, why is it taking so long? Even I had to ask at one point, why is it taking so long? And when you talk to the engineers, and I think I might have mentioned this before, this is something that normally you have a couple, sometimes more than a couple, depending on one's definition of couple these days, people working on this kind of a problem. And Lee, has been doing, pretty much all the heavy lifting himself. So it's pretty good progress for a very difficult system, but it's a really important system, whether it's for NPCs just in the game itself, in the world, or for the depths. Number 8 is a repeat of number 5, it looks like.
Transform
No.
versus Terrain.
Oh, it's Terrain. Sorry, never mind. Well, I missed that one. I just saw the T. Rob continued his work on the Terrain gizmo. He is to be obviously distinguished from the, Transform gizmo. He is working sort of like Gremlins 1 to Gremlins 2.
Do they both have a sheep input, though?
I can look for that. I can ask him. He probably would do that if I asked. He is working on smoothing out the updating of the grid points and the terrain visuals. Number 9, tech, work in progress. Chat server Linuxification. So as we mentioned last week, JB is working on updating the chat server. It is currently non-functional until we Linuxify the server and update the chat UI. Yeah, sorry about that, but a kind of big deal as well. We want everything moved over to Linux, and now JB's joining some of the other engineers in the fun and frolic. Number 10, work in progress, tech ragdolling. So we haven't talked about this before because, quite frankly, at least not in any detail, we weren't sure we were going to add it. We weren't sure it was going to work. We weren't even sure how performant it was going to be. But Mike has been doing work on it. Mike D has been doing work on it, and so far it's looking good. We're hoping to have it in for testing within the next week. So be a good add to the game between knockback, ragdolling, as long as we don't go too extreme. I think it will be a nice add again. And the thing about ragdolling is that if we do it right, which of course you have to do it right, it will actually save us time in the long run because we don't have to have as many death animations, especially for NPCs, because that's what ragdolling does. So that's actually a time saver when it comes to art and animation. Number 11, continuing Linuxification. So in this case, Wiley continues to assist in this effort and is currently working on porting our resource networking and proxy libraries to cross-compile on Windows and Linux. Colin is also working to build and run our .NET Core servers in a local Linux VM. Number 12, work in progress, texture processing improvements. We're currently working on a tool that will allow us to do more advanced texture manipulations as part of our build pipeline. This in turn will help us resolve visual artifacts such as bad alpha maps and every other weird little glitch you see. Number 13, art concept, medium armor. As we mentioned last week, we had more armor concepts incoming. Michelle did a great job coming up with realm-specific, full outfits that are themed around the support classes. Yay, more game. Number 14, work in progress, art spears. So, per last week's concept of TDD spears, we've begun work on a couple of new weapons. Number 15, art Viking shields. We've completed 2 Viking shields, one more basic, one a bit cooler. These will be in today's update. Number 16, business, cloud providers. So one of the things that Tim and I have been doing is working with various cloud providers, whether it's Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. And it's been a lot of fun because we talk to them about, our architecture. We talk about, what we need. And the nice thing is when, you hear these guys going, wow, this is some of the coolest tech we've seen. It makes you feel good. Especially when they ask questions about, well, how does this really work and blah, blah, blah. And we explain it to them and they're like, okay, you guys really know what you're doing. And that's always good to hear for people who were part of, Dark Age of Camelot's development. That was a big deal for us. We went as far as to bring in quite a fine gentleman who helped us out a lot by the name of Spike, whose part of his job was to tell us, hey, did we have our head up our ass in any way when it came to how we were laying out the servers. And, when you get this kind of feedback from various providers going, yeah, we can't help you make it better because you're doing the stuff we tell other people to do, it makes you feel really good. So the last item of also is me, design scripting. So one of the things that I've been able to do, which is actually fun, is have some time to think about and help, design what we're going to need to script things in the world in places like the depths. So whether it's like lightning strikes or veil storms or things that get triggered, by time, or they get triggered by another event, or they get triggered by watching political debates. This is the sort of thing that's, a good ad for the game. And I've actually got to enjoy that. It's fun. Though I spent a lot of today working on spreadsheets, which is also at times a little fun. But hey, got to get it done, because one of the reasons I'm doing it is so Ben and I can enter and iterate on things quicker. So look, that's it. Closing at 4:30, so I can get back to what I was doing. So hey, ask away.
Give us your questions, folks. Bobo Deok asks, do you already have ideas to balance the game, range versus / melee, if it's obviously unbalanced regarding this aspect in beta 2 or 3?
Oh my god, yeah. So one thing you can almost always guarantee, at least if you're thinking, logically and, based on experience, is that it won't be balanced in beta, 2 or 3. Balance is ephemeral. It's elusive. It's something that is really a bitch and a half, and very few games ever get it right. So, going in, Bobo, we have absolutely taken the right approach, which is to know that it isn't going to be balanced the way we would like it to. Because when you go in confidently and it's like, oh yeah, hey, no problem, we've got this covered, that's when you're in trouble. And so we know there'll be issues, and this is something we talk about. This is something, that, is obviously quite important. So expect it not to be balanced, and expect us to do what we need to do to get it as balanced as we can. But there's always that tension, especially when it comes to a rock, paper, scissors game. If this was just a mirrored class game, those are easier to balance. Rock, paper, scissors, it's a lot harder. But hey, we are definitely trying to do that.
Swipper asks, hey Mark, I wanted to ask about progression. I remember there was talk about a feature in the game where when logging in, we'd get a report of how we did in our last game session. Is that still happening?
Oh my god, yes. It's already happening. You get, if you log into the game, you should still be getting updates. So last time I played it, you did, on what you already did. Now it's placeholder, but no, oh my god, that's a big deal for us. It's one of the things that, as we've talked about from the beginning, will allow this game to be very different from anything else you've ever played, at least in terms of an online MMO. Keeping track of what you did, what your realm did, and then being able to award you based on that is a really big deal. So yeah, that if we lose that would be one of the things I would really hate to give up. I can't imagine why we would have to, but no, nothing has changed with that in terms of it going away.
Yomi asks, now that mages have been added into the game, has any further thought been given as to how, when mages craft new spells, failures will be determined and how catastrophic the results will be?
No, I don't think we've changed anything. We're still talking about that. We have to get the trying to figure out how catastrophic it should be until you've got them at least reasonably balanced is kind of silly. Let's get them reasonably balanced. Let's get them working against other classes the way they need to, and then we can always figure out, the failure rates and the, critical success rates, because they could change based on obviously abilities changing and what we decide to do with the classes overall.
Inflicting Megahertz asks, when can we expect the next batch of design documents?
Yeah, that's on me. Let's get through what we're going to talk about at the end of October, and we'll see what happens after that.
Well, the next question is from Thraxter and Hamblepants. What is the date and time that we'll be doing the State of the Game in October?
Still the last Friday of the month, so not too long to go.
Brand asks, Is class focus mostly on minstrels at this point, or are crafters and devout being worked with on the sideline to get them in sooner?
Say that again?
Is class focus mostly on minstrels at this point, or are crafters and devout being worked with on the sideline to get them in sooner?
No, we're focusing on the support classes right now. We want to get them in. We want to get them working well. We want to get you folks playing them. And then we'll move on to the next things.
Byproducts wants to know, can you enlighten us with more details on how gathering will work for crafters?
Just what I've said in the past. When you look at what we want to do with mines as opposed to nodes, saying, wow, what we want to do with the ability of people to have animals, which they can use for skinning. Nothing, we're not trying to do anything revolutionary there, other than really the mines and the whole bubble stuff. Expect the rest of it to be pretty simple. Look, we know that at the end of the day, even for our crafters, the basic gathering isn't the most exciting thing you'll be able to do. So we don't want to spend a ton of cycles making it amazing or trying to make it amazing, because even if it's fun, after a while it won't be so much fun. And as you play other, alts, it will be even less fun because you're just repeating it. So that's something we really aren't going to spend a lot of time trying to be super creative. We'd rather save that for the rest of the crafting system, and obviously for systems for the combatants.
Inflicting Megahertz says they are going to send out VR controllers and you'll have to do mining motions.
Oh, God. Well, we could actually do that. I mean, the game works in VR, right now. Hi-ho.
It's off to work we go.
Yeah, we could do that. I mean, we've told you folks, you can actually put on VR goggles and play our game. You won't play it well, but you can actually, you can see it working. When I've been in tests, God, what was it, about a month ago, when we were in the Cherry Keep, and maybe 2 months ago, and somebody asked, hey, does this work in VR? I was like, sure, type this command. And they were really surprised, but it actually did. Now, the frame rate isn't strong enough, certainly, in the Cherry Keep siege, because that's insane. But in theory, you could play most of the rest of the game if we had the controllers hooked up properly. But it's not something we're shooting for with this game. Another game, sure, but this the VR bit is really just a parlor trick, at this point. Show people that the engine can work and can handle VR, even with, as George and Andrew would say, a less than optimal solution to getting rendering working. Essentially, we're just redrawing everything twice. But it is kind of cool. I mean, it's first time you wear the goggles, if you don't get seasick, you look around and you see all these NPCs or bots, running around, and you see the world in VR, and you get a taste of why this tech will be cool. I mean, will it be this generation? Not likely. Will it be the next generation? Much more possibly. But eventually, when this tech is there, and it's as easy as doing this, essentially, I think gamers are going to have a whole new, at least the ones that can, do it without getting seasick, until we perfect that, we'll have just a whole new way of looking and feeling about these kind of games. It really is different. It's not perfect. It's not even fantastic yet for most of these games. But when we get it right, and I just don't mean me or we as CSE, but developers, and manufacturers, it's a game changer. I mean, it's a huge game changer. It won't be for a while. I don't think it's like cold fusion, or just regular fusion, let alone cold fusion, where it's the next big thing every 50 years. I think we're only a couple generations away. When you look at the various chips that are coming out from NVIDIA and AMD, they're amazing. and it's just a matter of getting the price point down, getting it lighter, and easier to use, and you know that'll be really interesting when it happens. I look forward to the games you'll be able to play when we really have great VR and AR.
Brand asks, with more focus on Linuxification and now the support class, did destruction tech get to where you wanted it, or is there still more work going on with that?
Yeah, there's still more tweaking we have to do. If you've seen the keep, we still have moments where the rubble doesn't settle properly, so we want to get that fixed. Linuxification is a big deal. I mean, it's taken us longer, which is no surprise. But it's so important. It had to happen before the game launched. I mean, there was just no choice. So, while we're hoping it will also result not only in cost savings, which we know it will, but potentially performance improvements, it's so worth it. And it's a thing we had to do. I don't think I could say I'm looking forward enough to being done with Linuxification, so I can get back some of our, best engineers working on other things, like Andrew and George. Their focus has been so heavily on Linuxification and getting parallel, working, or, CMake and all that they haven't had time to do other things. So, yes, once we get that done, we get them back. We get guys like Wiley back and Colin and other folks who have been, pitching in to get this done, so we can go back to spending more time on game stuff rather than get ready for launching a product stuff. 5-minute warning.
5-minute warning, folks.
Let me also add a point, because I know some people are probably thinking, oh my God, look at the pace of this, or, they're in trouble, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, if we didn't think we were going to launch something, we wouldn't bother with Linuxification. I've had to explain that to a couple people, where it's like, if we weren't doing this, I'd be more worried about us. But because we're doing it, it's frankly the exact opposite. Linuxification is only useful if you're going to launch a game. It makes no sense to do it otherwise. So, I know it feels like it's been a while, and it has, but it's all going to pay off hugely. It really will. So, yeah.
Well, do you want to end on a question about archetypes that won't be in at launch, about estimating times, or about the October state of the game?
Well, there's not much I'll say about the October state of the game, other than it will be the state of the game. I really can't say anything more without actually saying what I'm going to say. In terms of archetypes post-launch, sure, what's the question?
Bobo asks, what is your favorite planned archetype that won't be there at launch?
I'm trying to remember what classes we said weren't going to be in. Overall, I think it is going to be the stealth classes, and just not an individual one, but the way we're approaching it. If the mechanic works the way I hope it will work, we'll have a very cool stealthing system. It'll be... I'm trying to think as a stealther, and because I have played stealthers every so often in other games. And I think this is the right approach. We can always fall back to something a little bit more expected, but I think going into the Veil and the things you'll be able to do in the Veil, I think it's going to be really cool, and I think it will also be really useful. And if we can do that and make the solo stealther, feel useful, feel important, feel like they can contribute to the game, and at the same time, removing a lot of the power of a large stealthing group that frankly just sits around waiting for some poor victim to come by, which I get. It is a valid play style, but we do want people to be more active. Then I think we'll have a nice win. I really want to get stealthers involved in the war effort. I mean, for me, that's one of the keys. Can you make scouts? Can you make the general veil mechanic work in a way that you're going to really want your stealthers doing the things that, frankly, a stealther should do, or at least should do in this game, as opposed to Dark Age or obviously as well Elder Scrolls Online. So we'll see. I mean, obviously, I'm the exact opposite of hating stealthers. You look at the games I've made. So I think, at least I hope this will work. So it'll be interesting. So that's it. So look, we will have an announcement about testing in today's update. I know we've asked folks to come in. I just haven't had a report yet from the servers. Everything really is going along really nicely. Our new engineers are working out beautifully. We're really happy with them. Our new artists have been also doing great work. We have another one joining us in another week, so that'll be great. All is good. All is really good. And some of the stuff that I've been working on myself has been, absolutely so much fun. Tired, but really happy overall. It's been a crazy week, obviously, in the game industry. And the world, which is not a good thing. So hopefully you all will stay safe. Have fun. Enjoy your weekend. I should be here next week, but I may go up to New York to have a chat with the investors. That's really about it, guys. So, again, as always, thank you so much for your support. Thank you for your patience. And enjoy the fall. Unless you're down under and, what would this be, down there? If it's fall here, it's spring there? I guess? Yeah, it would be spring. So, if you're on the other side of the world, enjoy your spring. If you're on this side of the world, hey, enjoy the fall. Apparently there's a big nor'easter heading up the coast and had weird weather with, what was it, the 60-degree drop I heard, I think, in Denver. Some crazy numbers. But hopefully your weather won't be crazy, and I will see you next week, either here or possibly in game testing. So that's it, and as always, thank you, and see ya.
See you later.